You see, the first political leaders who became our presidents and prime ministers in Africa after the independence of African nations from the shackles of colonialism are the ones responsible for the problem we are facing today in Africa. Calm down. You're a black man. You're an African man. Pay attention to this history. Now, after the independence of African nations from the shackles of colonialism, Africans decided to form the United States of Africa. But the former colonial masters, for the purpose of keeping the continent divided, convinced some African leaders to settle for a mere organization in 1963. Before the formation of this organization, the newly independent African countries were grouped into 3 different blocks: the Casablanca, the Moravia, and the Brazzaville. These groups had different ideology on how independent African countries can come together and live in unity. Now, the Casablanca bloc was a radical bloc that agitated for the United States of Africa with a single language and a government governing the entire Africa. Unfortunately, this was not accepted by many African leaders who feared that they might not acquire political power after they had fought tirelessly for their African countries to gain political autonomy from colonial rule. They kicked against the idea and settled for the formation of the Organization of African Unity, that is OAU, which is today called African Union, which is AU. This was exactly what the former colonial masters wanted. The colonial masters lobbied the newly independent African leaders to settle for OAU and not to a one government in Africa. This decision was one of the factors that has kept Africans completely disunited, especially at the international level today. You see, the likes of late Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana and late Gaddafi of Libya have bitterly buttressed the benefits in Ethiopia of having a united Africa under one political umbrella. But the newly independent African leaders were so convinced to embrace statehood and rule as presidents in their African countries. Little did they know that this is mainly for the economic interests of their former colonial masters, who still want African countries to be economically and politically colonized and divided. The fact is, if African nations are under one African government with a single and generally accepted lingua franca, like Swahili, the resources of Africa will be utilized for the political and economic development of the continent. The failure to form a united Africa has led to the disunity among African leaders in the international political atmosphere. African leaders who are now presidents in their countries are used by their former colonial masters for the underdevelopment of Africa because of loans from World Bank and IMF. The main aim of the formation of the OAU was to bring African nations together and resolve the issues within the continent. But it is disheartening to inform you that this is the most useless international organization as long as the history of Africa is concerned. A failure that is characterized by irrational leaders who are controlled by their creditors in the World Bank and IMF. African leaders in the United Nations are meaningless when they speak at the international level. They only go there to take pictures with their former colonial masters. They go there to show the Americans and the English leaders that they can speak good English. Meanwhile, the Chinese, the Russians, the Indians, they speak in their local dialects at international conferences. We only know how to speak good English, but cannot provide food and good governance for our teeming population. It is very deplorable that the continent that once gave the world civilization is now a beggar.